we will see that the layer, the symbol, line type, and attributes are all preserved. And with that, I will hand the torch over to Ray, and you can take it away.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. So let's jump into the demo very quickly. Since this is a session talking about interoperability, I will start everything from the Civil 3D environment. A lot of you are probably more experienced in Civil 3D environment than us, but here I'm just going to show you one possible workflow to get the code library from Civil 3D to TBC. As you can see here, I have a DWG file opened. It's called TBC template DWG. I do not have any points or lines or anything in this DWG, but only a bunch of point styles created, as well as the description key sets. I'm going to...
The fan's noisy.
Okay. I'm going to quickly go through one or two of these point styles to show you what I did. So if I double click on one of these point styles, you will see in the information tab, I put in a name, aka the feature code we're going to use later in TBC. And also in the marker tab, I chose to use AutoCAD block symbols for marker. How do I get this symbol? I can right click in a blank space and hit browse. And also I have another TBC symbols DWG file already created with a bunch of block symbols included in it. So once I load that DWG file, I could see all my predefined block symbols, and I can pick one of them as my symbol or marker. That's pretty much all I did for all these point styles. You will notice that some of them are having this suffix of -a or -l. This is just my way to remind myself for all these -l codes, they are for line codes, and for all these -a codes, they're for polygons. Now I have a group of point styles ready. The next thing I did here is to create my own description key sets. As you can see, I called it TBC Keysets, and inside here, basically I give the code or a description, and then in the style area, I used all my existing point styles, and then also I linked the point styles to my layers, so that afterwards, when I need to bring the data back into Civil 3D, I will use the Civil 3D Layer Manager to decide what color and what line style or line type Civil 3D want to use to display all these lines and polygons and points. So once I have this table ready, I can select all of them, right-click, copy to clipboard. If I have the spreadsheet open, which I don't, I could copy and paste all of these values, make sure I'm using the correct delimiter to separate all the columns. Now this will be our good base to start prepare our customized CSV for Feature Definition Manager. A lot of these columns are not very relevant to what we're going to do later in TBC, so I can just select all of them and delete. Another editing I'm going to do here is for all of these layers, if I want to make sure they will use the generic Civil 3D Layer Manager, layer definition to control the design later, I will add another column called line type, and I will make by layer the default option for all of these feature codes. Some of you will notice that if we happen to have a non-solid line pattern, for example, I'm using the zigzag line for my line strings, I will also need a relatively bigger line type scale instead of the default 1. So here is what I'm also trying to do. From my past experience, 6 or 5 will be a better number. So I'm just going to copy and paste to all the feature codes again. Another very cool feature, Feature Definition Manager or TDC offers is we decide if you want to include that feature code to create the surface. As Matt mentioned, anything that's included in surface will be contributing to our surface creation, but here we can control what code will be used in that function. By default, everything is included, meaning that the default number will be 1, or we can also type in yes or true to let Feature Definition Manager know we want to use this feature code to create surface. But if we want to specifically exclude some of these codes, for example, for broadleaf tree or for the signpost, they're significantly above the natural ground, and I do not want to use them to create my ground surface, then I can change these specific code value to 0. You can also do this afterwards in Feature Definition Manager or even in TDC, but here it's just an easy way to batch processing all of them. I think that's about it, and we now have a nice and clean CSV file ready to go into Civil 3, ready to go into Feature Definition Manager. So I'm going to save this as my TDC description keyset in CSV format. Save it, and then close it. Now I have Feature Definition Manager open. I'm going to create a new file. Maybe you're already familiar with this Import Custom CSV File button, but this is the main function we're going to go through in today's demo. I'm going to point to the TDC description keyset CSV. As you can see, all of these values are read into FDM. One big question is, now I have a bunch of feature codes. How do I know which one is my point codes, which one are my line codes? So I'm going to use this little filter button and go to Custom. I know all my line codes are having this suffix of -L, and all my polygons are having -A. So if I want to just filter out all of my point codes, I can say, give me everything that does not include -L and does not include -A. Now TDC gives me, or FDM gives me all the point codes. I can select them all, add to points, and do the same thing to filter all the line codes. Contains -L, okay. Add to lines. Do it again for all the polygon codes. Add to polygons. Now if we go to Points, Lines, and Polygons tab, you will see all these feature codes are sitting nicely in their according group. So with these values, we still need to tell Feature Definition Manager what to do about these values. So I'm going to right-click on the column and use Name, Code, and Feature Layer as the column names, so TDC know where to put these values into. For the point codes, the line style and the line style scale doesn't really matter, so I'm going to skip those two columns. But for the last one, do I want to include these codes into surface creation? I will add that column name as well. Now this points group is ready to go. I'm going to hit Add to FXL. We'll do the same thing for lines and polygons. Code, layer. This time I'm going to choose line style by layer, line style scale as 6, and include in surface. Add to FXL. Same thing for polygon. This time we're actually using borderline style and borderline style scale. And the last one is, of course, include in surface. Add to FXL. Now we've included everything from this CSV file into our new feature definition file. I'm going to hit close and expand the new category. You can see now we have 10 new point codes, and we have a few line codes with the correct line style and the line style scale. And we have these polygon codes, again with the same bi-layer line style and the scale. Also, if we go into one of the specific point codes where we say we do not want to include in surface, as you can see, that box is not checked, while some other codes has this box checked. Okay, so next thing before we send this FXL into, say, Trimble Access is the line control codes, which is a very important piece to control how those dots can be connected in what behavior. How do we do that? A lot of you already know that every time when you install TBC, there is already a global features.fxl file included. So we can always open that file and copy over all the existing or predefined line control codes. So I'm going to open that one.
Hey Ray, what version of the feature definition manager is this?
I believe we're using the latest. It's 2.28.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we have the global features FXL opened. I know we can reuse all of these line control codes, so I'm going to use Export Custom CSV File button. And I'm not interested in including all these lines and the polygons and the point codes. I'm going to right-click in the space, unselect all, but I'm going to drag all the way down, check the control line codes area, and I can export this into another custom CSV file. As you can see, I've already have these line control codes CSV created. I'm not going to do that again, but that's all we need to do from Global Features FXL. Back to our new FXL, I'm going to use the Import Custom CSV function again. This time, I'm going to look at the line control code CSV. Do the same thing, select all, then add line control codes. We can repeat the same step for the first two columns, giving them the name and code. But for the action field, right now, although we are seeing the exact same text showing up, they are not treated as the control algorithm code. So we need to replicate all these same actions into the proper field. As you can see, we'll have to do this every single time when we have a new feature code library created. But from our customers' feedback, a lot of our users always have a template code library that they constantly go back to. So you only need to do this step every single time when you have another new one showing up instead of every single day. So these are the steps we need to go through, but I already have a pre-staged one created, so I'm going to show you what it will look like. Once I have some of these line control codes prepared, I can choose to add to FXL and close. I'm going to export. And here you can see 4 of the line control codes are added. But I'm going to show you a existing one with all 16 codes added here. So with the proper action item added, TBC or Feature Definition Manager and the Trimble Access will be able to understand how we should connect those dots together. Okay, so next thing we want to do is to add the symbols for points. Right now, as you can see, if I open this broadleaf tree code, there's no symbol. And if you don't mind seeing all the plain dots in TBC, because eventually you need to bring all the data back into Civil 3D, you can leave it as it is, and it can be ready to go to Trimble Access environment. But a lot of times, having a symbol to identify which feature is this is very helpful. So I'm opening this new symbol window. In the symbol drop-down menu, I can choose to import symbols, and I can point to an existing AutoCAD file. And, actually I'm going to, point it to this TBC symbols DWG file. Hit open. It will read all the block symbols from this file, and I can bring them all into my Feature Definition Manager. Now I can give this symbol a name and choose the proper one to display this feature code. For the color, again, if you do plan to bring everything back to Civil 3D, I would recommend keep it by layer so that the Civil 3D layer manager will be able to kick in and use the existing color to control how these features can be displayed. Hit OK. Now we have a nice tree symbol for our broadleaf tree. We can do the same thing for all other point symbols. For example, this community manhole, communication manhole, we can do CMH by layer. So we can keep doing these to include all the symbols for all the line for the point codes. But again, I'm going to open a staged one to show you what it should look like. So now for the survey disk, we have this nice triangle, water wall. We have a tie with a W on top of it. And also, if you do plan to stay in TBC environment as long as you need and inherit the same Autodesk line styles, now you have the option to say, I want to import the line style directly from my AutoCAD or Autodesk line type file. If I open this one, you can see all the line styles in this file, and you can choose to import all of them and use one of them for your lines. In this case, since I do plan to bring everything back to Civil 3D, I will keep it by layer. Another cool thing to have, if you do plan to collect not just the geometry of those features, but also some important attributes of the features, you can use Feature Definition Manager to add attribute fields. For example, for the broadleaf tree, I may be interested in how big the trunk is. I can add my attribute field. I can add some default number, maybe for a typical tree, 0.3 meter trunk is a typical number. I can also enter the number of decimal, maybe 1 will be good enough. And I can add other attributes such as what this tree type is. Can put in some new values such as aspen or apple tree, and maybe something else, elm, right? I can also define which one will be my default value. Also, from broadleaf tree to conifer tree, maybe I want to copy over the same trunk definition. I can easily right-click on the attribute I want to copy over, choose copy, and then go to my conifer tree and paste the same attribute field over. And again, I'm going to show you a nice FXL file pre-created with all the attributes added. For the conifer tree, I have the height, the trunk, spread, type, and photos. And for road barrier, do we have any attributes? Maybe not. But for the storm sewer line, we do have a photo attribute added, so you can easily take a picture with your TSC 7 or your Yuma tablet. Now, I would say this FXL file is truly ready to go. It has all the point symbols. It has the attributes for individual feature code. It has the line style defined by layer with the correct stick scale. And most importantly, it has all the line control codes needed for the field crew to control the behavior of the line string. We're ready to use it to process some feature codes. I'm going to save this one, close it, and open TBC. If you have been a TBC user for a long time, you are probably very familiar with our famous feature code data set here. We keep going back to the same data set because it has both total station measurements in it as well as GNSS measurements in it. Actually, this has been done with the integrated survey style, so we don't really need to worry much about the local site calibration and etc. To see the data better, I'm going to turn off the total station and RTK vectors. As you can see, I also turned off show point IDs, so we will just look at a bunch of points. Now the next thing to do is to go to Survey tab.
Hey Ray. Can blocks like trees be scaled according to an attribute?
Yes, we can. That's a very good question. So if I open this FXL, and go to, say, broadleaf tree, where I do have a attribute field called trunk diameter, right? And to control how this symbol will be scaled based on my trunk diameter field, I can right-click on my existing symbol, go to Edit, and here, symbol size and scaling. Instead of using the fixed value, I'm going to use attribute diameter. In that case, if this tree is bigger or smaller, I could directly see that from the scale of the symbol. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Cool. Okay. Okay, so back to TBC. Yeah, with the new TBC 5.0 layout, you may realize that we have redesigned all the icons as well as rearranged where those icons sit. So before you may get used to process feature code immediately from the quick access bar, but now we moved that icon to Survey tab as well as GIS tab. In this case, I'm going to hit Process Feature Code, check my GXL, Process Source. Oh, actually, I already have the file imported, but I'm going to change that so you can see how usually you will need to do that. Open, and now we have the correct FXL file created, imported. Hit OK. And now process feature code, process source. I'm not going to read the feature code processing report because I know some of the points in this project don't have the correct feature codes associated, but for other points or features, you can already see the symbols showing up. And if I go hit the properties, another cool thing we have in TBC 5.0 is now the property pane can always stay attached instead of only having one pane open at the same time. With this broadleaf tree, you can see the correct feature code showing up. The correct layer was carried over. The feature attributes are also carried over. If I also want to see the picture of this tree, I can go to the media folder, click the play button, and here's our tree. There's definitely one thing I want to mention is, remember we already exclude some of the feature codes so that they should not contribute to any surface creation. If now I click on the point again, as you can see, the include in surface is displayed as no. And if now I want to create a surface using all the points around this area, create surface. TBC already noticed that 76 objects are not set as include in surface. So if now I'm hitting OK, create the surface. Let's zoom into this broadleaf tree again. As you can see, it's kind of floating in the air instead of sitting in the surface. Maybe it's much easier to see this in a 3D view. Oh, this tree is kind of sitting on the floor, but maybe we can look at this pole, light pole. As you can see, when we surveyed this pole, we probably hit the top of that pole. So now when we create a surface to represent the natural ground, this sign pole will not pollute our natural ground. Okay. So I'm going to turn off the surface. Back to plan view. Another new thing we added in the TBC 5.0 or maybe 4.1 already is the lock feature function. So as you can see, I already have, say, this gutter line created using the processing feature code method. And right now, the locked feature status is no. If I select yes, actually, I will keep it as no for now. And assuming that actually we're going to add 2 more codes into this line string, how do I do that? I'm going to hit edit. And from this segment, I need to add 1 more point, or maybe even 2 more points. Use coordinate. And maybe add another point. No, next one. Okay, add another point here. Well, maybe 1 point is good enough to show you what it's doing. So imagine this is my modification to my existing gutter line design. Next time, maybe I have another team of field crew going back to the same area, and they have some more points coming into the same project. But before, if I cannot lock this feature, if I now reprocess the feature code, this edit from the office will be gone. But now we have the feature to lock this line string. If I now remove my feature code processing, as you can see, this line string will stay here. But also, when I say process the source again, this line string will also keep its new geometry instead of moving back to where it was before. So next thing we want to do is definitely to export all the nice features back into the Civil 3D environment. Go to Export, CAD tab, DWG Export. I can select all by using Control-A, but then in the options, I can fine-tune which layer I'm going to export my features. As you can see, these are all layers coming from the Feature Definition Manager, so I'm going to only contain features from these layers. Hit OK. Choose a nice place to save my DWG. And in the settings, you can see we can export the DWG into different versions. I'm quite happy with DWG 2018 because I'm running Civil 3D 2019. Export unit, as Matt mentioned, now we have this unitless option available. Since my project is in meters, I'm also going to choose meter to match the same unit. Layer prefix and the suffix, I'm not going to touch these two because I do want to keep my existing layer names coming from the Civil 3D. And back in Civil 3D, I'm going to show you how to reutilize that layer information. Export precision, here I'm going to choose no rounding so I can truly keep the same precision level. Export attributes, yes, for sure. That's a very good function we have to export all the attributes to the block reference. Explode block, I'm going to choose no. And export line work as 2D polyline, I'm going to choose yes. And here I can choose which polyline elevation I want all my line strings to sit in. Since this is a Colorado project, I'm going to choose 1680 meter in general. And I'm ready to go export. Okay, so now I'm going to open Civil 3D again. I'm going to close my template DWG file and open our new export. If I zoom extend, as you can see right now, we just have everything in this nice plain thin white line style. But as you can already see, the point symbols all come through correctly. The next thing I want to do is go to Manage tab, Styles, Reference. And I'm going to use my TBC template DWG file as my template. And hit Update. There we go. So basically by doing this reference style, Civil 3D will utilize existing layer definitions from our template DWG file and then recolor and redesign or display all of these line styles. So if I actually zoom into this line a little bit and come all the way back, now you can see this line style has been carried over. And if I now click on one of these tree points where I know we have some attributes included, go to the Properties, Extended Data. Now you can see for this conifer tree, we have a photo embedded. Its trunk diameter is about 33 centimeters, and the type is a pine. And if you do also want to see this nice JPEG file, again, I'm not a Civil 3D expert. Maybe this is a dummy way to do it, but since we already have this absolute path recorded, we can also make sure we can add this link. So now if I right-click on this point, go to Hyperlink, there we go. This is our pine tree showing up. Okay, so I think that covered everything for what I'm going to show you today. Seems like we have 15 minutes time left. Do you have any questions?